This is the second installment of Audio Pictionary, an English vocabulary game designed to exercise and increase your active vocabulary. I'm your host, Tony Kaizen, and the game you're about to play is a simple one, so let me break it down for you. There will be 3 rounds. In each round, we will focus on one topic, like cooking or basketball, for example. Now, first, I'm going to describe an object, action, person, and/or activity related to the topic. And then you will have to say the name of whatever I'm describing. Now, in each round, you can earn a maximum of 5 points, 1 point for each correct answer. So put your thinking caps on, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to picture this audio. Audio Pictionary is brought to you by Real English Radio, a podcast for people who want to learn real spoken English in a practical way. For access to episode transcripts, PDF study guides, and bonus podcast episodes, visit patreon.com/Real English Radio. Round 1. Relationships. This object is a circular band of metal worn on the finger to symbolize marriage. This object is a circular band of metal worn on the finger to symbolize marriage. What's it called? If you said wedding ring, then you are correct, my friend. And this is not to be confused with the engagement ring. The way I understand it, the engagement ring is bought first. When you propose to your partner, when a man proposes to his potential or future wife, apparently he needs to buy the engagement ring. And then when this person says yes, he puts on the engagement ring, and then another ring is supposed to be purchased and given to the bride on the wedding day. So you have the engagement ring and then the wedding ring. All right, number 2. This is a heated exchange of words or a physical conflict between 2 individuals. This is a heated exchange of words or a physical conflict between 2 individuals. What is this called? If you said argument or fight, then you are correct, my friend. Now, just a quick detail about these 2 words. Argument is always verbal. You argue with other people. It's like fighting, but verbally. Only verbally. You never get physical with somebody. A fight, especially in the context of a relationship, typically means argument. You're fighting with your girlfriend, you're fighting with your boyfriend, you're just arguing a lot about dumb shit or whatever problems you guys have. Now, in other contexts, fight, as you may already know, means physical. Like I'm putting my hands on you, you're putting your hands on me, we are trying to hurt each other physically. Hopefully that's not happening in any of your relationships, but just so you know the difference between these 2 words. Argument is always verbal. Fight can be verbal or physical. Just depends on the context. All right, number 3. This phrasal verb describes the act of resolving differences and restoring a relationship after a disagreement or an argument, after a fight. After you and your partner have a fight or an argument, when you try to resolve your differences and make peace and restore the relationship to a positive vibe, a good standing, what is the phrasal verb we use to describe this? If you said make up, then you are indeed correct, my friend. To make up after a fight is what I just described. To make peace, bury the hatchet, get over the issue, resolve the problem. There's many different ways to describe that, right? But we call that making up. I'm sure there's a couple of songs about that. There's one that goes, break up, then we make up, da, 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 do, and you love me, then you hate. I don't know the actual words, but that's the melody, more or less. One of y'all knows what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, that's make up. Let's move on to number 4. This word describes the act of finding a middle ground or mutual agreement between conflicting opinions or interests. When you try to find a middle ground or a mutual agreement based on conflicting opinions or interests, what is that called? Let me give you an example. You and your partner have different opinions about what should be done this afternoon. Let's say partner A wants to do X, Y, and Z, and partner B wants to do A, B, and C. At some point, you're going to have to work together to find a middle ground, something that's acceptable for both of you. What is the word we use to describe this? If you said compromise, then you are correct, my friend. Now, an important note about this word. If you speak Spanish or Portuguese, you're probably going to get this word confused at some point on your learning journey because compromiso sounds like it's like a false friend. It sounds like compromise in English, but compromiso is actually commitment, not compromise. I actually don't remember the word for compromise in Spanish or Portuguese, but compromise describes you and this other person who have different opinions or want different things working together to find a solution or an option that's acceptable for both of you. That's what it means to compromise. We both want different things, but we're going to find some way to get what both of us want, even if we don't get everything we want. That's compromise. Comprometer in Spanish and Portuguese is to commit. Comprometido is committed, not compromised. All right? All right, let's move on to number 5. This person is your partner in marriage or a long-term committed relationship. This person is your partner in a marriage. What is the gender-neutral term that we use to refer to this person? If you said spouse, then you are correct, my friend. That's S-P-O-U-S-E, spouse. Now, I will say this word is relatively formal. You're not going to hear it every day, but it does describe the husband or the wife. It's a gender-neutral term, so you can use that word referring to a man or a woman. Now, obviously, wife is for the woman and husband is for the man. Spouse is the overarching term that can be used to refer to either of the two people, your spouse. Now, this definition says a person's partner in a marriage or long-term relationship, but typically you're only going to use that word if you're married to the person, because otherwise it's just your girlfriend or your boyfriend, right? But that's just my understanding and use of the word. But that is the end of round 1. Again, this is all about relationships, my friend. So go ahead and tally up your points, figure out how many you got. And like I said in the last game, don't feel bad if you didn't get a single answer correct. It's not that big of a deal. All that means is you're learning new words. All right, my friend, we still got 2 rounds, so you still got a chance to get some points on the board. So let's move on to the next one. Round 2. Objects related to the body. Number 1. This is a line or crease in the skin, often as a result of aging or getting older. As we get older, lines or creases will appear in our skin around the eyes, the elbows, the cheeks, the neck, things of this nature. What do we call these? These little lines and creases in our skin. If you said wrinkle, then you are correct, my friend. That is W-R-I-N-K-L-E, wrinkle. Those little lines in your skin as you get older, or maybe you were bigger when you were younger and you lost a lot of weight. Now there's just extra skin that isn't as tight as it used to be. And the skin starts to sag a little bit and wrinkles begin to appear. We call those wrinkles. All right, number 2. This action is the act of removing hair from the body, typically using a razor. Removing hair from the body, typically with a razor. Your legs, your beard, other parts of the body you might remove hair from, right? Using a razor specifically. What do we call this action? If you said shaving, then you are correct, my friend. To shave, as I just said, is to take a razor and remove hair from the body. Now, if you're using some type of gooey substance that's typically very warm or hot, and then you put it on the skin or you apply it to your skin, you wait a few seconds or minutes, and then you rip it off, that is not shaving. That is what we call waxing. And you literally use wax To wax your body. It's a noun and a verb. The material, that gooey substance, is wax. And using that wax to remove hair from the body is waxing. All right, number 3. This is a small bone at the end of the spine, also known as the coccyx. The small bone at the end of the spine, also known as the coccyx. So imagine if you jump from a very high place and you land on your butt, your bottom. If you don't have much muscle or fat there, you're going to hit that bone at the base of your spine and possibly fracture it or break it. What is the name of that bone? If you said tailbone, then you are correct, my friend. Tailbone, tailbone. Again, I guess the medical term is coccyx, but I've never heard that word in my life until I started working on this episode. We all say tailbone. All right, number 4. This is an artificial replacement for a missing arm or leg. An artificial replacement for a missing arm or leg. If you get your arm blown off in a war, you get it amputated for some reason, you might be able to go and get an artificial arm or an artificial leg so that you can still go about your life like a totally healthy human being. What do we refer to this object as? If you said prosthetic limb, then you are correct, my friend. Prosthetic limb. Prosthetic, if I'm not mistaken, means fake or artificial. Let me just double check that. Prosthetic. Denoting an artificial body part, such as a limb, a heart, or a breast implant. So I guess it means artificial. More specifically, an artificial body part. And the word limb, L-I-M-B, and the B is silent. Limb just means arm or leg. Those are your limbs. So prosthetic limb, obviously, is an artificial arm or leg. Now, a prosthetic body part, obviously, is just any other part of the body, like a prosthetic heart, which I didn't even know was possible. Prosthetic jaw. I don't know what else they make, but you get the point, right? Prosthetic limb. All right, number 5. This is a medical doctor specializing in the diagnosis and treatment of skin conditions. This doctor specializes in the diagnosis and treatment specifically of skin conditions. What do we call this doctor? If you said dermatologist, then you are correct, my friend. Dermatologist. Dermatologist. So if you got some bad acne, you got eczema, some type of rash, any type of skin condition, you're going to go see a dermatologist, which is basically a skin doctor. All right, that is the end of round 2, my friend. Let me know how you doing. Tally up those points. At this point, you can have a maximum of 10. Do not feel bad if you only got 0 or 1 or 2. There's nothing wrong with that, my friend. All that means is you're learning. All right, we still got one more round. You still got one more chance to get some points up on the board, my friend. Let's do it. Round 3. Objects and actions related to the street. Number 1. This is a paved path for pedestrians along the side of the street. A paved path for pedestrians along the side of the street. In most streets, cars and motorcycles and bicycles are riding. Then just off to the side of the street, in many places, not every place, there's more pavement, usually a different color, where typically only people are going to be walking. What do we call this part of the street? If you said sidewalk, then you are correct, my friend. S-I-D-E-W-A-L-K, just like it sounds, sidewalk. Excuse me, it's just one word. So cars drive in the street, people walk on the sidewalk. All right, number 2. These are materials used for constructing roads, sidewalks, and other surfaces. These are materials used for constructing roads, sidewalks, and other surfaces. What do we call these materials? If you said concrete or asphalt, then you are correct, my friend. Now, just as a quick side note, typically the road or the street is going to be made with asphalt. It's usually a black or a dark gray looking color. Concrete usually has a light gray looking color, like most sidewalks. Some buildings are made with concrete. Most sidewalks are made with concrete, and the road or the street is typically that black tar looking asphalt. All right, number 3. This word describes the rate at which a vehicle moves along a road. This word describes the rate or the pace at which a vehicle moves along the road. What is the word to describe this? If you said speed or velocity, then you are correct, my friend. Now, the word velocity, I would say, is relatively formal. It sounds more technical. It sounds like something a scientist would say. Most people just say speed, even though they basically mean the same thing. But the speed describes the rate or the pace at which the vehicle or the car, the bike, the truck, the bus, even the human is moving down the road. 5 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. All those are different speeds. And it's also a noun and a verb, I should say, because the noun describes, again, the rate at which you are moving, 50 kilometers per hour. But to speed down the street means to be driving above the speed limit. So a police officer or a cop might pull you over and say, or you might ask them, why am I being stopped? What did I do wrong? What's the reason for this stop? And they'll say, you were speeding. You were going 85 in a 45, which means you were going 85 miles an hour in a zone where you're not supposed to drive faster than 45 miles an hour. You were speeding, going faster than you should have been going. That's what it means. All right, let's move on to number 4. This action describes the illegal act of driving through an intersection when the traffic signal is red. The illegal act of driving through the intersection when the traffic signal is red. Typically, you go when it's green, you slow down when it's yellow, and when it's red, you must stop and wait for it to turn green again, right? So if the traffic light or the stoplight is red and you drive through the intersection anyway, what do we call that? If you said running a red light, then you are correct, my friend. To run a red light basically means to go when the light is red, like I just said. That's what we call it, running a red light. So you can either slow down on yellow and then stop on red. If you keep going, then you are running the red light. The police officer might stop you and give you a ticket for running the red light. That's how we describe that. All right, number 5. This word describes the action or the act of crossing the street outside of designated crosswalks or against traffic signals. Another way of saying that is this word describes crossing the street at places where you are not meant or supposed to cross the street, because a crosswalk is typically those white lines on the road that are designated for pedestrians to cross from one side of the street to the other. That's a crosswalk. Now, if you cross at some other point on the street that's not made specifically for a crossing, what do we call that? If you said jaywalking, then you are correct, my friend. That's jaywalking. One word, jaywalking. And as I said, you're crossing at some point that you're not supposed to. Very common in major cities, isn't it? You just cross wherever you feel like crossing and hope that people stop for you. But that technically is referred to as jaywalking. In some places it's legal, in some places it's illegal. I guess you know about your country more than I do. In the US, I'm pretty sure it's illegal. But obviously people do it all the time. They jaywalk, right? All right, that is the end of round 3, my friend. Go ahead and tally up those points. As I said, you can have a maximum of 15 points. 1 point for each correct answer. And if you got 0, it's no big deal, my friend. Listen to the episode again, take some notes, study your English, practice your English, put all this stuff into practice, right? And speaking of practice, for all of you subscribed on Patreon, You should definitely check out the vocabulary guide for this episode to see the words, the definitions, the example sentences, and also there's an exercise that will allow you to practice this even more. I put more words and phrases that you have to describe in your own words, and then you can compare your descriptions with my descriptions, both the formal and informal ones. I think it'll be really useful for learning how to use these words, putting them into practice, your reading, writing, listening, and speaking all in one study session. It really is a simple yet effective way to practice. All right, my friends, but that is it for this episode of Real English Radio. This, what would you call it? This match week? Maybe I'll start calling them that. This is match week 2 of Audio Pictionary in the books. All right, keep studying, keep practicing. You know what I'm saying? Stay dedicated, put in the work every day. You feel me? And you will see that progress. All right, my friends, but that's it for now. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm your host, Tony Kaizen, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.